Personality is a funny thing because it's kind of like the thing that makes you unique and you, but it's also kind of a very fluid and a dynamic thing. I know, like it changes from day to day, or even, what you're wearing. You're like, oh man, when I change clothes, I just feel different and how I present myself to the world and how I kind of react to the world. And I know, also, like, kind of every now and then, it's like, if you borrow a vehicle or something, you drive it and it's a little bit different than what you normally have. Maybe you got a loaner car, you got a rental car, and you're like, man, I just feel different driving this. And it's kind of like a funny thing because it's like, it's not like a permanent fixed state, but it's something that makes you say, oh man, something's different and I like it, but it's also me. And I know for me, one of the things that I was like, all right, maybe I'd like to incorporate this in my life a little bit more is one night I was going out and I got a fringe jacket and I was wearing this fringe jacket and I realized that people seem to really love it, but like not even my friends, just, random strangers. They're like, oh man, fringe jacket guy. And it's kind of like a funny thing where it's like, oh man, maybe I got to get a fringe jacket of my own and, start wearing this all the time. But then I say, is there a danger to that too? Because, maybe the only reason I'm fringe jacket guy is because I just managed to be something unusual and seen once, whereas if I'm wear fringe jackets every time I go out, my reputation on the town might become, oh, that's the guy that always wears fringe no matter the occasion. And it's something that I was thinking about because I think about Billboard Angeline, for example, where she doesn't really exist anymore, but I technically she's a little bit before my time, but I know that one of the things is she's always wearing pink and she has the pink, I think it's a Corvette, and it's kind of like, all right, this is what Billboard Angeline is, and it kind of gives both a unique identifier and a unique like personality trait where it's like, when somebody sees something they just kind of like know. They're like, all right, somebody that likes wearing loud colors is probably an outgoing or an extroverted person. And somebody that's wearing more subtle colors is probably a little bit more subdued. But even with subtle colors, there's ways to be loud or differentiated with, even having a very, let's say you've got a one color wardrobe. You like, what, everything I wear is going to be black. But you say, what, even though I'm going to wear a black wardrobe, I'm going to always pick clothes that are styled for about, 1970s, for example, or, I'm gonna try to have a, theme going where it's like I like 2000s styling, but I like it in black. And it's like, all right, it's a kind of way to be different, but still have that subtle look, or it could be green in your case, or, a variety of colors. That's just a normal color palette, but if you pick a decade or something, it'll kind of give you like a nice target where it's like, all right, this is kind of like a nice stable spot to be. I know every now and then it's kind of weird seeing somebody from like it's got like a style that's like 2000s, because for me anyway, it's like, oh man, is well, I don't know, I guess as time goes on it'll be a little bit less common, but I know one of the things that I look at is, when I see somebody, especially like, I don't know, I'm thinking like in my head it's like 2016 still. And I know then seeing somebody with the style of the 2000s, especially somebody in like their 20s, you'd be thinking, "Oh, did they just never get rid of their wardrobe and they were like, you know what I wear at 17, I'm just going to keep on wearing for the uh the next 20 years." and they ended up where they're at, or I guess not 20 years, but kind of like that area. Trying to find that how to describe it in a way that gets my point across. But it's definitely kind of like a fun thing, especially like thinking about stuff and dreaming about stuff, because it's like, oh man, you know what? In my ideal lifestyle, what personality, I guess, which version of myself do I like the best? And how can I conduct myself in a way to pull that out more frequently? You know, it's not necessarily a permanent fixed thing, but it's like, you know what? If I can get twice as many good days out, or days I by just wearing a fringe jacket, it's like, you know what? Maybe that'll be my winter gear, and it'll be like, all right, that's the thing. And it's kind of the thing too, is because it gives you a personality, but it also gives the world around you, especially if you're picking a older style or something, gives the world around you a nice way to mark you as having um not necessarily importance in somebody's memory, but it's like it's a lot easier to remember the guy that dressed a little bit different, or was really outgoing. It's a little bit harder to remember uh more generic things. So it's kind of like, all right, the more you can kind of differentiate yourself, the better you'll be at getting recognized. And I guess the question then is, how well do you want to get recognized? And this is the part that it's like you got to ask yourself about crafting a personality, because like it's easy to craft a personality, but then become somebody that you don't necessarily like being all the time. And for me, I think about that a lot with the actors, or the uh YouTubers even, where you look at them and they start off one thing, and then they get like their on-screen personality. Then that on-screen personality is pretty much what they get known for. And then it's kind of like a shock when somebody recognizes them outside of that, and they're like, wow, this person is so much different than what they present online. It kind of feels fake, it feels like they're faking who they are. And that's something that I'm like, all right, you know what? That's a part of, like, I guess, crafting a personality. It's like, how much do you want to craft, and how much do you want to be genuine to have um a genuine reaction to the world, where it's like, all right, we've got a all right, we've got this person or doing this, and it's like, all right, kind of like a little bit of like a funny quirk. And I guess too is like, I guess be cognizant, be aware that you're doing some of this stuff, because a quirk might become a feature accidentally. And when you're dealing with something like your own identity, it's kind of well, I'll put it this way. I wouldn't want something that I did once to become a defining factor of my character. And so I'm like, all right, something to think about. And so as I think about that stuff, I'm like, all right, well, what does this do? What does that do? And it's kind of, I guess, a feedback thing. It's like really the best way to figure out what you like and what you don't like is to try different things. And you can kind of do the same thing with yourself, is what I'm saying. And you can do that with like your personality, and you say, you know what, let me see if I like it better when I bike in, or when I do like a little bit extra of this, or I do something else. And it's kind of like, all right, it gives you a little bit of a caricature builder, but it's like, all right, it helps you find, what you want. And sometimes, finding what you don't want to be is just as important as finding out what you want to be. So, I don't know, go out there, have fun, try new things. You know, play around, I guess, a little your personality, but don't lose yourself. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Love you. Bye.